Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the big show. This is the Big 3 DFS show. Once again, playing shorthanded. That means more time for me to talk. And for our brand new guest, Casey Carruthers, made his debut yesterday for the college football show. Back at it again. What's going on, Casey?
Hey, man, another night outside in the Philly burbs.
Indeed, indeed. Here we are in the Northeast, just a couple of guys talking some college football on a Thursday night. What could be more exciting than this?
Absolutely. Got a big slate tomorrow.
Hey, do you go to Xfinity Live a lot?
No.
I was there once, and I guess I won a VIP. Everybody wins a VIP the minute you step in there. So I get a text every weekend saying, "Hey, come down, blah blah blah." Might have to take them up on their offer one of these weeks.
Yeah, no, the place is always happening. Every time I go down to one of the games or something like that, they rocking and rolling in there.
Hell yeah, I like it there, man. That's my kind of joint. It looks like it used to be an old, small strip mall, and then they just turned it into 4 bars in one.
Yeah. Yep.
Man, that's my kind of thing. All right, last night on the show, we broke down the Thursday to Friday college football slate. Right now, we got Louisville and Clemson going on. Real slugfest going on out there. It's 7-3. Who's the guy that caught the touchdown for Clemson? Nobody had him.
Renfro,
yeah. I mean, complete wash of points right there. But,
yeah.
If you faded, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. I got so many college names in my head right now. The Clemson quarterback?
Watson.
Yeah, that's a good start to the show. Just forget one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So if you faded him, you're looking good early, but still got a whole half of football left. Today we're going to break down the whole Saturday slate. So that's the early slate and the late slate. If you're playing on DraftKings, I believe there's only the late, or the early, the late, and then they have one where you can combine the two. I personally like to go with the early only or late only. I don't know. What do you usually like to do, Case?
So as far as my main plays, I do exactly what you do. I do the 12 o'clock early only, and then
Right.
I do the late only. Depending on if I have time or the way things are looking, I will throw some lineups in there, specifically tournament lineups for the in-between slates to try to get lucky.
Hell yeah. Now, let me ask you, if you're winning pretty big, do you take more of a chance, or you just sit happy with what you got, or is it if you're losing then you try to go for the gusto, or are you pretty calm and collected where you could take your losses?
I'm generally calm and collected. If I'm up, I will fire more bullets in the bigger tournaments.
Yeah.
But I won't necessarily splurge on my cash games. I kind of have a pretty set process of how I come up with my cash lineups.
Absolutely. I mean, last week college, I was pretty content with how everything worked out on that Saturday. And then the NFL Sunday, I had Doug Martin and I had Lamar Miller. So I'm pew, 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 just lineups going everywhere. But it ended up working out all right. I got some nice money on Monday. But let's talk about the kids. This show is all about the kids in college. We'll talk about the quarterbacks, I guess, first here. In the early slate, who's a quarterback that we should be locking and loading in our lineups?
So the guy that I'm targeting, he's not going to be a big name. He's probably not going to jump off on the paper from you. Right. I don't think he'll be a heavy start either, which actually might be nice. But I got my boy Wes Lunt from Illinois.
Oh, do you? All right.
Coming in at 6,900 on FanDuel. It's priced a little bit different on DraftKings, and I can get into that a little bit more because I kind of have a different quarterback going on DraftKings. But for FanDuel, 6,900, that's a very reasonable price for a guy that slings the rock all around. He started as a true freshman for Oklahoma State, has since transferred to Illinois. Dude can throw the ball.
Yes, and one of the things that I like, now they are going against UNC, which has the highest pace of play in all of college football, so that means more plays for our boy Les. I'm behind that with you. If I'm going with a lock, I got to go with Matty Johnson out of Bowling Green. Obviously the total in this one's 80.5. I'm sure it could even go, a point below or a point higher. But, I have to be involved in this game somehow. This guy's already thrown the ball pretty much 50 times in both starts this year. At Tennessee, at Maryland, he's shown that he can go up against the big power conferences. I like him a lot in this one against Memphis.
Agreed. I'm right there with you. He actually 915 yards so far through 2 games.
Yowzers!
You got a total in the low 80s. That's where I shift over on DraftKings. I'm going to look to get him in on DraftKings. Obviously, he's not available on FanDuel, so it's kind of tough to play him there.
Yes. Now, if we're going to be fitting that guy in on DraftKings, we need a cheaper option at quarterback. You got anybody that the guys can play there?
Cheap option on quarterback, and I'm not touching him on FanDuel because I don't think you need to, but I got Clayton Thorson from Northwestern.
All right.
Nothing sexy, nothing pretty. Northwestern's kind of a ground and pound, play some defense type team. But he's doing okay so far. I mean, he ripped off a 40-some-yard run against Stanford on that home win upset. So if you can get it done against Stanford, you can get it done against Duke.
Hey, those Stanford sling blade motherfuckers.
Yep. But he's only 5,400. So to get a starting quarterback, I think it's a 3-point line with a total just under 50. Mm-hmm. Some decent opportunity for a 5,400 quarterback on DraftKings.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned Northwestern because I'm going to come back around there for the running back position.
Yeah,
I like to play that. We'll get there. If I'm going with a QB2 for DraftKings, I'm going with Nick Arbuckle out of Georgia State. Listen, they're going up against Oregon. A lot of points going to be happening in this one. He's probably a guy that most people don't know about, but, this team, they like to air it out a lot. And guess what? Oregon's going to score. It doesn't matter who they play. I guess unless it's against Michigan State. Oh, too soon? What? Look, now basically Arbuckle's probably not going to get the majority of his points until the second half, so you're going to have to be patient for this. But for 5,600, I'll take my chances.
Yeah, no. You got a fast offense on both sides of the ball. The opportunity's there. All right. I'm actually looking at a Georgia State receiver that we'll cover later on.
I have him myself, I think. If we're quite cheap, eh?
Yep.
Indeed. All right. Let's talk about some late quarterbacks. I'll start off here. I guess, if we're looking at locks this week in the late slate, now this is from 6 o'clock on into the night. Trevon Boykin from TCU. I kind of want to go 1A, 1B here with Boykin or Falk. I like Boykin if I have a gun to my head and I got to pick one. Boykin because at least SMU's pace of play is a little higher. I know Wyoming, they run a fast pace offense too, but more of a run oriented game. I got to go Boykin here because I think there is some value to be had at the QB2 position. But yeah, if I have a lock, it's going to be Boykin.
Yeah, from the lock standpoint, sure. I mean, it's hard to disagree with Boykin. The guy's a Heisman candidate. He can run, he can pass, he can do it all. TCU's got a ton of weapons that he can dish the ball to. Right. Price is up there, but if you can fit him, he's safe points for sure.
Well, here's the thing with TCU as well. We can even talk about SMU's quarterback, Matt Davis. Now, TCU has a pretty damn good defense, so I don't know if I'm going to pay up for that. But, SMU can move the ball. So that just means more possessions for TCU, more opportunity. Might not – look, these guys hung with Baylor. So, the opportunity is there to hang with TCU.
Absolutely.
All right. You got a lock here for the night?
For the light slate, you kind of right with you. It's hard to get away from Boykin and Falk in terms of lock. You just kind of know what you're going to get. High-profile offenses, high-pace offenses. In terms of short points, if you can fit their salary, they're the two guys you want to target.
Right on. All right, if we're going with a sleeper at quarterback for the late slate, this is a deep sleeper, but Grayson Lambert out of Yuga. I know that it's the Nick Chubb show all day, every day down there in between the hedges, but this is an SEC game. Gonna be high competitive, a lot of competitiveness in the game. So, listen, these are rival schools. It will be a close game, no matter what's going on. No, don't even worry about the blowout risk. I could see South Carolina keying on Chubb, and then Lambert, he has no choice but to throw the ball. But for 5,900, I get a quarterback in a very high-profile game, and listen, I'm not scared of that matchup whatsoever.
Yeah, it could be tough. For sleeper quarterback, guy I'm looking at is Gerard Hurd from Texas.
All right.
So he took over for Swoops last week. He's now listed as the starter for good reason, obviously. what I like about him is, and if I don't know if you read our CFB ebook on DFSR, quarterbacks that run offer a lot of safety because of the gravy points by their rushing yards, especially young quarterbacks because they're not polished passers. So sometimes they just want to make moves, make plays with their athletic ability instead of relying on reading a defense and going through their progressions. Gerard Hurd came in as the Texas Longhorns starting quarterback. Obviously, they got shellacked by Notre Dame week 1, and all of a sudden,
did. Woo woo.
all of a sudden, Strong was on the hot seat. So I think he's gonna turn this guy loose. Cal's got a fast-paced offense. They can put some points on the board. I think they're going to put some points on the board. So I think you're going to see everything you can get out of Hurd. He's nice value on both sides.
Yeah, sure. And I'm glad you brought that up because I had that as one of my plays, and I know we were kind of going back and forth with the late slate about what we're going to do here, but I am glad that you mentioned him. That is a great play, and yeah, lock and load him. Now, do you think that price is a little too much, being that this guy doesn't have as much experience, or you're rocking and rolling?
Yeah, I haven't really finalized my lineups on FanDuel so far. What I have found on the year that the money's a little bit easier on FanDuel, so I might not have to go down that low on the quarterback rankings. But DraftKings, tee him up.
Tee him up, baby. You play golf at all?
Before I had 3 kids, yeah.
That's a good point. I have, but the guy that I play golf with all the time, he has a kid now, and needless to say, we didn't go out that much this year. So
yep.
I had to find new golf friends. What are you gonna do? Well, hey, listen, if you want to have golf, if you want to play golf, don't have kids. I guess that's what I try to do. But yeah, you know what? Now that fantasy season is here, I'm like, all right, you know what? Golf done. I'd rather just hang out, watch the games all day, make some money. Listen, golf's expensive, man. Shit.
It is.
All right. Run it now. Oh, I completely forgot. Any wild card picks for quarterback? Not necessarily a lock or a sleeper, but just somebody who you might offer to someone.
Yeah, I'm trying to find his name right now. Like it's slipping me. It's a quarterback from Wyoming.
Oh.
I'm trying to find his name.
I'm trying to get all
he's kind of along your Georgia State guy where, they're heavy underdogs. They're going to be playing from behind. He missed, I think his name's Connor. He missed last week due to an injury, but he's back this week. I think his price is like Hoffman. I think it's like $4,000 on DraftKings.
Oh my God, yeah, that's
so for him, lock and load.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, $4,000. Even if he misses, I don't think it's going to sink your ship.
Interesting. Now, there's so many guys out there this week that I know you mentioned Wes Lunt. Love that play there. Now, a lot of people are going to be on Thomas Sirk at Duke. He's very affordable, but I don't like the matchup there necessarily going against Northwestern. I'm going to be all out on that. So if I have, if I'm going to go in a wild card, let's go with my Notre Dame guy, Deshaun Kaiser. Came in last week there. Listen, he's pretty accurate passer from everything that we know about this guy. I believe it was 8-12 last week. Had the amazing connection there with Fuller to win the game. Granted, his first touchdown was a fake field goal. That doesn't count, but, in the stat book, it does. In the stat book, it looks like a 10-yard slant right to the end zone. So,
yep.
But yeah, I guess if you want a wild card, there you go. All right, let's talk about ball carriers. There's a ton. There always is. This is college football. This is how they get the ball in the end zone. Who we teeing up for a lock in the early slate at running back?
So you said it right. There's a lot of running backs. There's a lot of good value in running backs. We certainly can't play them all. We can't talk about them all tonight. So I'm gonna pick out 2.
All right.
That are just on FanDuel. They're money. It's Jahad Thomas from Temple and Jordan Howard from Indiana.
Oh,
so represent me.
I'm sorry. I had Howard last week. He did all right. Got me in the money.
Yeah, and for not scoring last week, he still had a pretty decent stat line. Being a Temple alum here, I got to give my Hootie Owl some credit.
Oh.
Taking care of business against Penn State and then going on the road at Cincinnati and handling a very good quarterback with a lot of receivers to throw to. They picked off Keel 4 times.
Yeah. Now when Temple won that game against Penn State, was it like, raging fires all over downtown Philadelphia?
Nah, city of brotherly love, man.
The city of brotherly love and intact vehicles.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, it's not like when the Phillies won the World Series or anything.
That's a little different.
Indeed.
World Series, you might get some car fires.
World Series.
Or maybe might even get a dumpster fire.
Oh, we got that this year.
But the way Temple's been running, they're kind of the type of football team that I love. Play tough defense, hard-nosed defense, and pound the rock. P.J. Walker's not a polished passer, but he's very capable. But he's got a gimpy shoulder right now, so that he only had 2 rushes last week because they're trying to take the pressure off his shoulder. He doesn't want to take too many hits. So Thomas already on the year has 55 carries for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he's averaging over 25 yards a carry. I don't see anything changing this week. I think they're playing UMass. UMass just gave up 390 yards rushing to Colorado.
Damn.
So I think you're going to see handoff left, handoff right.
Oh, dang, Colorado. And, obviously a Pac-12 power out there out west. Good Lord. My God, they're horrendous. All right, yeah, great breakdown there. If I got to go with the lock at running back, I love me some De'Veon Smith from Michigan. The clear-cut #1 back there had an amazing game against Oregon State. Granted, they suck, but guess what? So does their opponent this week, UNLV. They gave up a field day to Perkins in the first half of that game on Saturday night. De'Veon Smith last week, 23 carries, 126, 3 touchdowns. And there's really no threat of anybody taking any carries away from him. If they gave up all those yards to Perkins, who is, one of the best running backs in the country, I think De'Veon Smith's going to be able to duplicate that just as well. UNLV coming to the big house, I don't see that working out well for the Rebels at all. Lock and load De'Veon Smith. And, 7,400, he's not your elite back price, but definitely elite back numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good contrarian play, too. I don't think he'll be a heavy start.
Yeah. Are you worried Michigan's going to blow them out too much or what?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they have enough offensive talent to just completely, blow the doors off the building. I think Smith's going to be a heavy dose early and often. A lot of times, too, when these blowouts happen, it's because the stars put up numbers.
Good point. Damn good point. All right, yeah, so I'll give you my other running back play, Justin Jackson at Northwestern, as we alluded to a little early. Listen, this isn't going to be the sexiest game on the schedule, but, start running back, get yourself 6,800. I know you like the QB there, but you know what? Maybe they could combine for some dump downs for touchdowns, and we could both be happy here. Yeah,
no, absolutely. JJ's real solid value on DraftKings. He'll definitely be in some of my lineups. I'm even looking at him on FanDuel. He's a volume play. I mean, he averages almost 25 yards a carry going back all of last year, so he's going to get the ball, that's for sure.
28 carries against Stanford. I mean, you can't look at last week's stats, but against Stanford, 28 carries, $134. Didn't hit pay dirt, but still, pretty damn good day against a very solid defensive unit.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take it to the late slate for the running backs. Anybody that you got here?
Let's see here. If LaShawn Daniels Jr. is out for Iowa, then I think you got to play as backup Jordan Kinseri.
We're on the same page, baby.
Last week he had 24 carries, 124 yards, and a touch. Obviously this is hinging on whether Daniels is healthy or not, but if he's not, this is the classic backup running back who's not at a starter's price. So it kind of seems like you got to just go him all day long.
I love this guy, Kinseri. I actually had him week 1. Slipped in some points there, and I was doing a little bit of reading on the situation. He kind of got his job taken away from him at the beginning of the season. Kind of has the chance to get his job back now. I love those stories about the guy probably loses his job to the incoming freshman, and I have no idea what year DeSaniels is. But I like Kinseri's spot here. Definitely going against Pitt. Not exactly the Big East power that they once were, but well, hell, no more Big East anyway. But yeah, I like his spot here, especially the starter's out. So yeah, and how often do any of us watch Iowa? I caught the opener for Iowa. I was just amazed by Kinseri. He had a run where he completely hurdled the defender. That was all I need to see from the guy to make him a fan favorite of mine.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so there are some other plays here at running back. Of course, Chubb is on the slate. Devontae Booker, great plays there. Anybody else that you see that you like from the late ones?
Yeah, I'm actually he's a household name. Everyone's heard of him, but for whatever reason, his price is not inching up even after his production. But Derrick Henry, Mississippi's put up 70-some points in their first 2 games. I don't think they're coming to Alabama and putting up 70-some points. Even with Bama blowing out people, Henry, I don't know what the stats are off the top of my head, but I think he's got like 6 touchdowns on the year already, or at least 5.
Let's check him out.
Mississippi, I think pretty sure they upset Alabama last year, and now they got to come into Tuscaloosa.
Sure did.
Yeah, I don't think Nick Saban forgot about it, so I think you're going to get a lot of Henry.
I like that play. So 6 touchdowns on the early season for Henry here. And that's 6 touchdowns on 31 carries, so that's pretty damn good percentage right there, if you ask him. A guy that really hasn't gotten off to it as much as I thought this year, Aaron Green out of TCU. Granted they played a bum school last week, but against Minnesota, that's a good defense. I kind of look for him to break out a little bit in this one. I know we talked earlier about I know we talked about Boykin at TCU before. He catches a lot of passes out of the backfield, Green. So this could be a nice little contrarian play as well. Going against SMU, horrendous defense, but I like the pace of play there, and especially with TCU at home, look for them to get up early. It's time to get Green going. He hasn't done a damn thing this year.
Yeah, it's kind of puzzling. I mean, I was high on Green at the start of the year. He was a high volume guy when he took over for drawing a blank on the guy's name last year when he took over. He got handoffs and he was getting catches out of the backfield. BJ Catalan. He took over for Catalan. So I was high on Green. I'm not really sure why they're getting away from him as much as they have been so far.
Yeah, I mean, you look the week 1 against Minnesota, they were kind of in a dogfight. It's a great defense. And then who is this? SFA, Stephen Austin, I believe that's.
Yeah.
So, I actually, a long time ago, I went to when I lived in Tampa, Stephen F. Austin against USF. They weren't even a D1 program yet, but they were still playing at the Buck Stadium. And Bill Gramatica, of all kickers, hits a 65-yarder, no problem. So, nice little history lesson there from the Bowels of Florida. Clemson goes in for the score. They are up 17-10 now, if anybody's wondering. All right, so we got the running backs out of the way there. Are there any sleepers that we need to talk about, or anybody else that running back? Any wild cards even? So
the 2 guys that I'm kind of targeting on DraftKings. Because I think you need to find a little bit more value and go cheaper guys. Okay. Patrick Ska from Georgia Tech. There's an issue, the fact that Georgia Tech, as I mentioned last night, has 75 running backs, and they seem to want to get every single one of them a carry.
Yeah.
But this is their first real matchup. So I think he's the starter. He's the full-blown starter, no question about that. He's probably going to see more carries this game than he's seen all year, and he's a touchdown machine. I wouldn't expect a home run. I don't know if he's going to win you a tournament. But for $4,900 on DraftKings, that's about as good a value as you can get in the starting running back spot.
Yeah, he without a doubt, he's in my lineup. He's going in. I've been playing Scob for as long as I've been playing daily college fantasy. So, but yeah, everything you just said there, I totally agree. This is going to be a dogfight with Notre Dame. The fact that Zaire's out for Notre Dame probably just I just see more of a workload for all these guys. Now, Georgia Tech's actually favored in this game by 2.5. Yep. I don't know. Listen, I do know what that means. I'm just avoiding the inevitable. But that doesn't look good for my Irish right there. So, could be a heavy dose of Scob.
I can't put a name on it, but Notre Dame just lost one of their best interior defensive linemen. So that may hinder their ability to stop the run.
Yeah, wow. Let's not talk about it. All right, yeah. Do I have any sleeper running backs? I believe I do. Let's take a look at this Texas Tech Arkansas game. There's 2 plays that I like there. Just want to get there real quick. been a hectic day, folks. If you see us lagging a little bit, just pick us up off the ground. I love DeAndre Washington out of Texas Tech, 4,900. Obviously Texas Tech, this is an aired out team. But listen, Washington gets his touches. Last couple weeks, he's been pretty efficient there on the ground. Last week against UTEP, 12 carries, $138, had a touchdown. I think in years previous, he's caught more balls, but only 3 catches this year. Look for that to change this week against a team in Arkansas that not looking so good last week, my friend.
Yeah, lost to a not-so-great Toledo team.
Yeah, Toledo going down to the old barnyard in Arkansas.
Yep. Another name to remember for Saturday is Jarvis Cooper from Memphis.
Okay.
Starting running back. Memphis is sneaky good. They got a sneaky good offense. They can put up some points. He hasn't had a ton of volume because they haven't needed it. But with the line at 3 with a total in the 80s, I think you might get more Cooper than you've seen all year, and he could be he's a good guy. He could win you a GPP. He could be a cash game play. So he's got somebody definitely to consider and give a look to.
All right. How we feeling about Newbie out of Nebraska? Nebraska, that just goes well. Obviously Miami, been struggling to, defend the ground attack this year. Newbie last week, $198, 2 TDs, the darling of a lot of people's fantasy lineups last week. But at 6,600 going against Miami, pretty high total too for 2 schools like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Newbie, Jacqueline Hyde. Week 1 was kind of like, whoa, what happened to this guy?
Well, against BYU, stout defense.
Yep, and then last week, he went bananas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Southern Alabama. I mean, damn, what a great defense, right? Oh boy! All right, let's get to the ball catchers for the last segment of the show. Receivers, tight ends, all lumped in the same group. Let's go early slate first. Who's the top fellas on the board?
So my top receiver, actually, both sites. He's not going to be the high-end receiver. He's not going to be the guy that puts up the biggest points. But in terms of value and safety, I'm looking at Geronimo Allison. I'm going to pair him with Wes Lunt. For all the same reasons why I like Wes Lunt in that game with the way the offenses both like to move the ball quickly, fast pace. He by far leads Illinois in targets as far as all the receivers. So that's something I look for, too, when I'm looking at receivers. I want to see a guy who dominates the targets within his own team. And Allison does just that. His price is $5,800 on FanDuel, which is kind of a joke. He hasn't scored that often, but Illinois has played 2 relatively easy matchups. So this should be a good week for Allison. All
right. Now, shit, man. We're going to go for a lock in these. I get Roger Lewis, if I'm going with Matty Johnson out of Bowling Green State. Bowling Green. Roger Lewis, why not? You got to pair up the 2. It's going to be a very expensive handicap that you have there with the 2 of them. Johnson at 8,700, Lewis at 7,300. But again, this is the game with the high total of the day, so you need exposure to this game. And if you're going to have exposure, why not have it with the top guns right there? Roger Lewis, have him, and have a third helping, people.
I'm all over Roger Lewis. Me and him are in a little bit of a spat right now, though. I will say that.
Oh?
So I ran Roger Lewis in all my lineups week 1, and he had 2 catches for 49 yards. And then last week, where we couldn't play him, he had 15 catches for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Good Lord.
But I'm all over him. I'm also running his mate there, Jared Dieter, however you pronounce that, at 3,500 on DraftKings. I actually think Dieter's a must-play because of 3,500. The opportunity in that game far exceeds his price. So I think Dieter's got to be in there. I also love Roger Lewis.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. I was just taking a look at his game log here. Hey, hi, how you doing, buddy? Woo! Look at that against Tennessee. All right, other not necessarily locks at wide receiver, but there are a couple value plays that I like. I like more value here at the wide receiver early. There are, I definitely want to go with Devion Smith early from Michigan at running back. Definitely get some Newbie in the mix early. But the only lock I really had was Lewis there. I'm sure there are others, but any other locks before we go to the value plays?
Yeah, there's a couple guys. Tajay Sharp. It's only been 1 game with 11 catches, 138 yards. Now, Temple's good. Sorry, say that?
Massachusetts.
Yeah. Yes.
A lot of guys on him this week.
So,
I've been hearing.
Yeah, I mean Temple's got a good D, obviously, but they're going to be throwing all that because they're not going to be able to run against Temple. He's another guy that just dominates the targets on his team. So I think Sharp, from a value standpoint, stands to see a lot of targets. Same with Taywan Taylor from Nicky Rodriguez's Western Kentucky Hilltoppers.
Oh, yeah. The Red Grimaces.
The Red Grimace. But Dangerfield's still a little bit banged up. They just lost Leon Allen, so their running back's a little bit gone. Dowdy hasn't put it together yet, but like I said last night, dude threw for almost 5,000 yards last year, so he can throw it around. I think they're playing Indiana, who's just got a Swiss cheese defense. I think me and you could connect for a couple touchdowns against Indiana.
Yeah, I hope you have a good arm because I threw mine out in stickball years ago.
So Taylor, he hasn't seen the volume that I would have liked to seen from him in that offense so far this year, but this could be the week where he breaks through.
Yeah, I mean, I've had Taylor in both my lineups in the first 2 weeks. I don't necessarily think that I'm going to go that way for him because, you know what, I'm a huge Higbee fan, so I got to have him in there. Like, Higbee's my guy. Like we're pretty much related. It's like if you have a boy that plays in the NFL, you got to throw him in the lineup there. Well, that's kind of like it is with me with Higbee, except I don't know him, but he's really good, and I have to have him in there. So
fair enough.
What parallel universe are we in now? What? But no, I gotta have Higbee, and then I love Taywan Taylor. It's just not this week. I know Indiana's probably more of a ground and pound team, so I don't know. I think Higbee just sees better plays in this one. But yeah, it's time for Western Kentucky to break out big time. It really is. This is one of the most exciting teams in all of college football. That injury to Allen is, devastating for that team. You hate to see that happen, but going up against Indiana, listen, they should get up for this one. Get it, boy. Yep. Get it, Red Grimaces.
That's right.
All right. So in the early slate, as I alluded to a little while ago, there are a lot of plays that I like here. I think cheaper wide receivers that you can get some production of. Number one, I got to go Hassan Anderson out of Nevada. This is a huge-bodied wide receiver right here. And, yeah, they are going up against A&M in College Station. But, this is a game where Nevada has to throw the ball. Last week against Arizona, I had Henderson paired up with what's the quarterback's name there? Stewart, right? At Nevada? Give it to me.
I haven't looked at them yet.
Yes, Tyler Stewart. My bad. But yeah, they went up against Arizona. Obviously, Arizona blew their hole out early. You get a little Stewart Henderson connection going right there. Henderson's a guy that I rostered tons of times last year on those late night Saturday night lineups where you're trying to throw darts at those WAC conference games. But yeah, I mean, Henderson for 4,600. I think you'll be impressed with his, just his stature and, the body type that he's got. He can definitely go up and get a jump ball, especially in this, offensive showcase that we'll have going on. Really like him a lot for that price. Another guy right around the same price, 4,700. Jonell Barnes out of Duke. He's kind of like a Julian Edelman type. He'll get you those screen passes. Just a short, shifty, quick guy. I got to bring some stats up on him because he has had some pretty good games here. Week 1, 11 catches, $109, had a touchdown. Crap bag school they played week 2. He, 2 catches for 56, but, that game was out of hand early. Going up against Northwestern, I see a lot of volume and the catches coming from him, so load him up as well. And then, Higbee as well, or Higbee from Western Kentucky. And we got to get to, I think we had the same guy, but Penny Hart, Georgia State.
Yeah, nice little flyer on that guy.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a read when you got a team like Georgia State facing a major uphill battle like they are. Right. But at 3,700, it's one of those things. You got to find guys like that on DraftKings. You just have to find some guys under 4,000. There's obviously going to be risk associated with these guys. It's not week 1 anymore. You can't find those lucky gems like Desmond Epps, who was $3,000.
Had him week 1, but he was 50% owned. So, how much of a gem were you, buddy?
Right. So pricing is starting to correct a little bit. So, you have to sift through and you have to find these guys, and he's one.
Yeah. And, remember I mentioned Arbuckle earlier. So that's 5,600 for the quarterback. and you can get Penny Hart for 3,700. I mean, we're looking at a grand total of 9,300 right there on DraftKings. That is not bad at all.
Nope, not bad at all.
Remember that, people. Remember that.
Yep.
There's a crystal ball somewhere down here. We're rubbing it. All right. Any other wide receivers early on that you like here?
Yeah, I mean, I just got to bring this guy up because he's a huge receiver. Everybody's heard of him. His price is really low this week on FanDuel, but it's because of the matchup. Okay. My boy Kevon Lucas from Tulsa.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's just an animal, just an absolute beast. He already has 14 catches, 258 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and he didn't have a very good game last week. The rub is they're going up against Oklahoma. They're 30-point dogs.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. Do the Sooners just completely shut Tulsa down, or are they able to get theirs in garbage time?
I don't know. I feel like
he's scary.
I feel like Oklahoma can just knock him off.
He's scary, man. Real scary.
Kieris Garrett too had himself, a nice topped 100 yards both games this season. So for 5,900. What if they just double team Lucas the entire time and then Garrett gets loose for a couple?
Yep.
I could see that happening as well.
Absolutely.
Another guy right at the same price point as Kieris Garrett, Aaron Burbridge out of Michigan State. I don't see anybody on Air Force messing with this guy at all. It's Air Force going against Michigan State. But for 5,900, you get a top 5 team in the country's #1 wide receiver. Why the hell not?
Yeah. No, I had Burbridge last week. 11 catches for 100 and some yards and a touch. Like you said, it's Air Force, so that that's the only question mark. Does Michigan State just pound the ball with their multiple backs that they have? But he's the unquestioned #1 without a doubt.
Yeah, and Josiah Price there too, 4,600. I went with him over Burbridge last week, but hey, they both did pretty damn well. So.
Yep.
All right. All right. So we'll close it out with the late slate wide receivers. There's a couple guys here that we like. Why don't you kick us off for the receivers there?
Well, I'll just get the obvious out of the way. Is you got to look at every single Washington State receiver.
Right.
Washington State threw the ball over 700 times last year, and the next closest team was in the 500s. That's a lot of passes.
Oh yeah.
They do have a lot of receivers. So you got to be mindful of the price because they do spread the ball around. But last week, if you would have run a stack with the quarterback and their 3 wideouts, you probably would have won some money.
Yeah, they were down here in my neck of the woods in the Brunswick area down here.
Yep.
Bastards. And then dumbass Carew goes and slams not his girlfriend's head, but some girl he's dealing with, slams her head into the concrete. You can't be doing that, Carew. Come on.
Nope. No, he's an animal too.
And then, head coach Flood gets suspended. What was that, yesterday or today for 3 games? So that whole program's going down the shitter.
Yep.
Bastards. Probably some value. Probably some value there with Rutgers, but I'm not interested in it. Nothing too appealing to me this week.
I agree.
But you're absolutely right with Washington State. I mean, here you got Marks at 7,500. Caraft there at 7,400, Dom Williams at 6,000. So, where do you go? Where do you go?
Yeah, just play them all.
But yeah, go ahead. What the hell? Play. Well, you can't put Scav in this one, but I don't know. Just take them all. It's Wyoming. They can't stop anybody.
Right.
Now, Perkins had a great game last week, but BYU's shown that they could play some defense. All out on Perkins, no exposure to him whatsoever at running back.
Paul Perkins?
Yeah. I know we were talking about wide receiver. That game just caught my eye real quick.
No, I have to look at him. It's kind of hard to tell because now that they're home again, Josh Rosen came out week 1, and it was bombs away, and Perkins, who I played week 1, didn't really get the looks. And then last week was total opposite where Rosen wasn't so sharp, and they just fed Perkins the ball. It's hard to say because maybe back in the friendly confines of UCLA, Rosen might be a little bit more comfortable and they'll sling the rock again. But Perkins is too good to ignore. You always have to give him a look.
Yeah, he kind of he reminds me of a Warwick Dunn type guy at FSU.
Yeah, he just goes about his business.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, I like him a lot more since I had him in my lineup and he crushed UNLV last week. But he's a guy. I've been keeping my eye on that guy. Yeah, I guess that brings us to the end of the show today. Such a sad time. I love talking college football with you. My favorite college football mind in all the land. Tell the people where they can find you on Twitter.
Okay, yeah. At Casey Carruthers. You can find me on Twitter. You can also follow us on DFSR. Real quick, I have one guy that need to mention, wide receiver. For me, he's the best play on DraftKings, and that's Juju Smith out of USC.
Yes.
For whatever reason, he's not the most expensive receiver on the slate. So just that alone, you got to put him in your lineups. USC is finally going to face somebody who might actually test them a little bit. So I think you're going to see a lot of action to Juju Smith.
Yeah, I mean, 7,100 on DraftKings as well.
Bargain.
Disrespecting the man.
Yep.
Disrespecting that man. Yeah. Hell, let's get it. Let's get it, baby. Yeah, I mean, listen, for everybody out there in college football land, make sure you're reading this guy's stuff. He knows his stuff. He knows the game inside and out. He might even go back to college to get some more inside info.
Too many years already.
Yeah, it took me 10 years to get my degree, and I'm not even a doctor. So,
yep.
What are you going to do? All right, that brings us to the end of the show. Casey, thank you as always.
Pleasure.
We'll see you next week again.
Yep, we'll talk about it. Yep,
all right.
absolutely.
If not, we'll work it. We'll work it.
Yeah, definitely again throughout the year for sure.
Indeed. All right, folks. For the rest of the Big Three DFS, we'll be back on the air Sunday morning for the NFL extravaganza, as we like to call it. We don't necessarily break down the games because we already did that last night. But it'll be a little fiesta before the games on Sunday. Get everybody in the mood, get you going. So, have a good weekend, Case.
All right, you as well.
All right. Peace.